If I could go back to when I was 5 years old, I would tell my mother, Mama, if you don't throw those 5 men out of here right now, when they leave, they're going to take everything we have. And when they left, they did. They stole her legacy right under her nose. But how did they get that chance? They got that chance when my father lost his job. Everything for our family fell apart when he lost his job. We had to move off our beautiful street on Alexandria Green in Detroit, Michigan. And we moved over to Hunt Street, which was rat infested, drunks, and dope heads staggering through the neighborhood. Things got really bad real quick. See, we had a great life on Alexandria Green. He was working. Mom was taking care of us. We had beautiful furniture, beautiful home, 2 cars, even though we only had 1 driver. Yep, my mom never learned to drive. So we had it made. But when he lost his job, everything went downhill real fast. I mean, we went down like you would not believe. And the moment we walked over there into Hunt Street, we pulled up to the street. We knew gone were the beautiful days of sitting out on the porch, like on Alexandria Green. You could sit out there in the evening. People walk by, wave. You hear moms calling their kids in to get ready for school tomorrow. But not on Hunt Street. On Hunt Street, in the evening, what you heard was, raise the drawbridge, release the alligators. Everything you could to protect yourself, people used. The biggest way they protected themselves, they didn't go outside. On Hunt Street, the streets were empty with the exception of the drunks and the dope heads. It was a pretty bad street. I mean, the moment we walked into the house, up those raggedy, creaky stairs, they were falling through. We walked into a house and the walls were yellow, like a canary yellow. There were gigantic cracks in the wall. There were holes where rats would come through. My father later patched a lot of them up. We get into the kitchen. The kitchen was, we opened the door to the kitchen. That's why it was closed. And literally rats were flying all over the kitchen, in the sink, under the stove, because there was a stove there and the refrigerator. Everything was a mess. And we learned that this was going to be our fate for years to come. And after a while, we felt this is it. We go no further than this. We just felt, at least I did, defeated, even at that young age. And my father started drinking more and more. He was drinking when he lost his job, but he started drinking more and more. He drank so much, he stopped looking for work. And now things went really bad. Here we were on Hunt Street, right in the neighborhood, dangerous. The one car we still had, because he sold that to try to pay some bills in the beginning, that car was starting to go out. We couldn't repair it. So what were we going to do? We started walking to the close stores. And eventually my father just gave up. He just gave up. He threw it all, and he threw it in the towel. And his nights were spent trying to find another drink. And him and my mother arguing every day, every night. So when my daddy would get up in the middle of the night to go get him a little wine run, me and my brother was right behind him. Hopefully we could get some candy. But that night, the infamous night, the night they stole my mother's legacy, my father said, stay here. Stay with your mother. Now, we didn't want to stay home because we wanted some candy. But we stayed home. And we figured he's going to be gone about 45 minutes to an hour, out there on the corner drinking with his buddies, sharing that 1 bottle of wine. But that night, he came back about 15, 20 minutes later. It was like, whoa. And he came in, and he was not alone. He brought these gigantic guys, 5 of them. They were huge, big, booming voices. And he's like, Vern, Vern. Now, my mother's name was Laverne, but he called her Vern. My mother like, what? He said I got some guys that want you to meet. These guys are amazing. You should hear them sing. They got beautiful voices. I told them you're a songwriter, and they want to see some of your songs. Like a schoolgirl going on to a prom. My mother, she introduced herself. They introduced themselves, and she ran to her bedroom to get her songs that she kept in a big old blue steel trunk. And she brought all those songs out, and they were like, yeah, we're always interested in new material. Yeah, let me see what you got. My mother showed it to them. They were like, oh, yeah, these are good. she could tell after a while that they liked the songs, but they wasn't wowed by it. It just wasn't one of those things that they were like, whoa. But she wanted to wow them. She wanted this was her only chance. She knew that. So she said, I got one song it's done, it's been written for a while. I wrote it as if my husband gave it to me. It's my words, but it's like him giving me these words. He said, well, let's take a look at it. She said, I'll be back. She ran into the room, opened the truck, got the song out, and she gave it to what looked like the leader of the group. And he was like, let me see what you got. And when she handed him the song, he saw the title. He said, hey, my girl, like the title. The title's nice. So right there, the group that would later become the Temptations, who were not known as the Temptations then, performed the song My Girl for the very first time, right there in our living room. They were trying to put a little harmony to it. You know how their voices were. They were amazing. It was like in the heavenly charge, they were singing beautifully, right? And we were, wow, my mother, oh my God, these guys are amazing. And she's like, oh, yes, yeah, we like this one. The leader, which no doubt was Otis Williams at that time, like, yeah, we like this one. We like this one a lot. Mama said, well, you think you can do something with this? And they're like, yeah, we can do something with this. Said, now, when you guys get out there with my song, don't forget me. She said, oh, no, we're not going to forget you. You're the songwriter. This is your work. Okay, I said, so I don't want to get left out. No, you won't get left out. Trust me. We will be back. And they never came back. But that didn't stop my mother for years, especially during the beginning of it, weeks after week, month after month. She kept waiting for them to show up. Every time the phone would ring, every time somebody would knock on the door, like a nervous schoolgirl, she'd run to the door and it wouldn't be there. And she was devastated. And the bitterness between her and my father became bigger. It grew like you would not believe. So what happened? After all this time of waiting, it was obvious they weren't coming back. We learned to hate that song every time we heard it, because later, my mom did hear the song. Her and my dad went off somewhere, and she came back, and my dad was like, I'm sorry, Vern, I didn't know. I didn't know they were still the song. I didn't know. Don't get mad at me. And before she walked into her bedroom, that she was staying there for days, she turned to my father and said something to him the first time I ever heard it. I hate you, Joe. I hate you. And we learned to hate that song. We couldn't stand the sound of it. Every time it would come on, we would hate it. Because my sister said, Daddy, what's wrong? We just heard the song, My Girl. What? Well, that's good, right? No, it's not good. They gave credit to Smokey Robinson, not your mother. What? And that was the big reason why we hated the song. My mother got no credit for all the hard work. She finally wrote her magnus opus and they stole it from her. Stole her legacy right under her nose. She lived a devastated life thinking that one day, maybe, hopefully, they would come back. Fast forward many years later, me and my wife are down in Fairlane Town Center in Dearborn, Michigan. And it hit me like a bolt of light. And I said, hey, Mama's not going to be here forever. And my mother never got any credit for that song. And my wife was like, yeah, I know. She said, what do you want to do? I said, there's a place over there called Things Remember. We can get a plaque made. Let's get a plaque made of Mama as if the Temptations gave her the song, credit for the song. And on the plaque, it would say, the original lyricist of My Girl, Laverne Sewell. And then, we present that to her. And my wife like, oh, yeah, that's great. I said, let's do that. So we did that. And then about 3 or 4 days later, it was ready. We picked it up. And I said, hey, staff, look, let's do this. Let's sweeten the pot a little bit. I mean, they didn't give her this, and they're not going to give her the little money I got. I got $50. Let's put it in an envelope and tell her that we ran into one of them today. We ran into Otis Williams today, and he was excited about that he met us again, and he remembered us. She's going to know it's just me being me. She's going to know that I'm just trying to cheer her up. And then we'll expose everything we did, and we give it a plaque. It didn't go nothing like that. It was a disaster from moment one. We went over to her house. She wasn't home. We knew who she was there, and she was at my older sister's house, Rosie's house. We went over there with a bunch of my nieces and nephews and friends over there. And I'm like, hey, Mom, you would not believe who we ran into today. She said, whoa. I said, Mama, please listen. We ran into Otis Williams today of the Temptations. What? And immediately I thought, oh, this ain't gonna go well. But I just kept going. I said, Mom, yeah, look, he gave us this thing. It's a plaque. And he gave us some money. But we'll get to the plaque later. But look, this is the money. She said, whoa. And there was a little letter my wife typed up saying basically, we've been looking for you. We didn't know where you were. We came back. We wanted to give you credit. Please accept this plaque as well as this money for the beginning of things are going to change for you. And my mother looked at me and the story became too real to be true. And she said, Pelly, what are you doing? I said, Ma, I thought you would catch on earlier that you knew it was just me being me. She said, so you didn't run into Otis Williams? I said, no, Mom, no, I didn't. And she said, okay, all right. I appreciate what you're trying to do. I only had $50 to put in there. We gave her the plaque. She's crying. I'm crying. My wife and all the other kids and friends and everybody's crying. And my mother like, I worked hard. I said, well, you know, Mom, that's why I wanted to do something for you so you get some kind of credit, you know? And she said, I appreciate that. We took a bunch of pictures and everything was good. And I told my wife, I said, you know, I'm glad we did this because I got a bad feeling Mom ain't going to be here long. Within about 3 years later, she passed. She died on Mother's Day with all of her children around her bedside. She died just like she hoped she would not die. Well, uncompensated for her work. It devastated. And her death devastated me. I was crushed. I knew her dying was going to destroy me. I never thought it was going to be that bad. I was a mess. I was a zombie walking around. Finally, my wife said, hey, you know what? You got to see somebody, baby. You're losing it. You way down. You gotta talk to somebody. So she signed me up for a behavioral clinic, people who lost loved ones. I was dead set against it, but I knew I needed help because I had just gave up. My mother's death hurt me more than anything I could imagine. So we get there. My wife drops me off. I go in there. The lady say, hey, you know, next week when next Monday, where everybody bring a picture of the loved one you lost. So, you know, next Monday, we all brought our pictures in. And the guy it was seated about 2 seats from me. When I put my mother's picture in front of me, he leaned over and said, I know your mother. I said, you know my mother? He said, yeah, I know your mother. I said, what do you know my mother from? He said, we'll talk after class. After it was over, we were walking out together. And before we got out fully outside, he turned to me and said, your mother wrote the song, My Girl. I'm like, yeah. How do you know that? He said, we grew up with David Ruffin, Otis Williams. We grew up with them. I did. Me and my brothers and sisters. And they would always talk about this stupid, he said, not my words, their words. This stupid woman who had all these kids, she thought they were really going to come back and share the credit of the song with her or give her credit for her song. No, they gave it to Smokey. And we grew up hearing that. They made fun of that. Now, he never told me how he recognized my mother in the picture, but he knew her. He knew her story. And when wife picked me up, I told her what happened. And I went home and I was like, wow, we already knew the truth, but now other people knew it. And then the thing about it, this is what kind of sticking in my mind a little bit. I mean, think about it. 61 years later. I mean, why now? Why bring it up now? Why not let sleeping dogs lie? Well, my mother never got credit for her song, her work. My mother died when she was 66 years old. I just turned 66. How much time do I have left? I don't know. But I didn't want my life to end without at least trying to tell her story. I mean, come on, think about it. It's the truth. Not what I think is the truth, what I say is the truth. Others, many others have said it's the truth. Because it is the truth. We lived this. It wasn't somebody telling us our story. We lived our story. So the question of why 61 years later? Well, the world had to know. And now you do.